The digital bank statement flickered on my phone like a death sentence. My graduate school fund was gone. Every cent I worked for had vanished into a silver BMW idling in our driveway. My parents used my inheritance to buy my brother a car. When I told Grandpa from his hospice bed, he picked up his phone, made one call, and said, "It is time for them to meet my attorney." The old man's hand did not shake. His gaze remained terrifyingly cold. Grandpa Silas adjusted his oxygen mask with a sharp, skeletal motion. The room smelled of antiseptic and fading lilies. He looked past me toward the window where the sun set over his sprawling estate. He had built this empire from nothing, while my father simply waited for the spoils. I saw a predatory spark return to his clouded eyes. It was a look I had not seen since he closed his last major merger. He was no longer a patient. He was a shark. The door hissed open as my mother drifted in, wearing her fake mourning face. She did not notice the phone gripped in Silas's hand. She reached for the gold watch on his bedside table with practiced ease. Her fingers hovered over the heirloom like a scavenger. I watched her swallow hard when she realized I was staring at her. She offered a thin, watery smile that never reached her eyes. She thought the old man was already a ghost. My brother Leo burst in next, smelling of expensive leather and arrogance. He tossed the silver key fob onto the sterile white sheets. He did not ask how Silas felt today. He only complained about the insurance premiums on his new toy. My father followed him, nodding toward the car outside with a sickening pride. They looked like a family of victors. They had no idea that a legal team was already drafting the paperwork to dismantle their entire world. The atmosphere shifted when Silas finally spoke without the mask. His voice was a dry rasp that commanded absolute silence. He told my father that the house deed was never officially transferred. My mother dropped the gold watch, and it clattered against the tile floor. My father's face drained of all color as the realization hit him. They were not the owners of this life. They were merely guests who had overstayed their welcome. The room felt suddenly, dangerously small. Leo reached for the keys on the bed, but I stepped forward and took them first. The silver metal felt heavy and cold in my palm. My father tried to speak, but Silas pointed a bony finger toward the door. The attorney was already waiting in the hallway with a stack of eviction notices. My inheritance was returning home tonight. Outside, the headlights of a tow truck flashed against the hospice walls. The silver car was already being hooked to the winch. The tow truck light pulses against the hospice glass. My father lunges for the keys in my hand. I pull back and feel the heavy metal weight. His face is a mask of purple rage. "That car is family property," he spits. I look at Silas, who is watching with narrow eyes. He says nothing, but his silence is a weapon. The attorney enters the room holding a leather briefcase. He looks very expensive. Attorney Miller places a single folder on the table. The parents freeze as he clicks his pen. "We have the signature logs," Miller says quietly. My mother clutches her pearls until her knuckles turn white. She looks at the floor and avoids my gaze. I see her shadow trembling against the sterile wall. They forged my name on the withdrawal slips. It was not just a gift. It was a crime. The room turns cold. It was for his future, my mother whispers. She points at Leo, who is slumped in a chair. He looks pathetic and small without his engine. Silas let out a dry and hollow cough. He gestures for the folder to be opened. I see my own name signed in my father's loopy script. It is a clumsy lie on official paper. My tuition was traded for a steering wheel. The betrayal feels like a physical blow. Miller slides a second document across the bed. This paper shows the mortgage on the family home. "You used Silas as a guarantor," Miller explains. My father begins to sweat under the harsh lights. He had lied to the bank about the estate. The house belongs to the trust and not to them. They have been living in a fragile glass box. Now the glass is starting to crack. The parents look trapped. "Give us 1 week," my father pleads. He reaches out toward Silas with shaking hands. Silas does not move a muscle in response. He simply looks at the clock on the wall. The tow truck outside let out a loud hiss. The silver BMW is off the ground now. Leo starts to cry like a child. It is a shameful sound in this room. They are losing their status in real time. Everything is falling. I step toward the window to watch the car. The winch groans as it pulls the metal. I feel a strange lack of pity now. My parents sacrificed my future for a shiny lie. They thought I was too weak to fight. They were wrong about me and Silas. We are the architects of this ending. The attorney clears his throat for attention. He has one more paper to show. The pressure builds. This is an eviction notice, Miller states. The parents gasp in unison at the news. They have 48 hours to pack their bags. Dominic would take over the property as the executor. Leo stood up and tried to shout at me. I simply hold up the forged bank slip. He stops and sits back down in silence. My father looks at his shoes. Silas closes his eyes and smiles. The war has begun. The family BBQ smells of charred meat and cheap lies. Leo leans against the brick patio wall with a beer. He looks smug despite the car being towed yesterday. My parents are acting like nothing is wrong at all. They laugh with the neighbors about summer plans and travel. I hold a paper plate that feels heavy in my hands. I am here to find the missing ledger. The sun is hot and unforgiving today. Nobody sees me. My father flips a burger and winks at Leo. He thinks he can talk his way out of this. The car was just a misunderstanding. He tells a guest. The neighbor nods, but his eyes look very skeptical. I move toward the back study where the records are kept. The air inside the house is cool and silent. I can hear the distant muffled music from the yard. Every step on the hardwood floor feels like a loud betrayal. I find the oak desk locked tight in the corner. I use the small silver pick Silas gave to me. The lock clicks open with a soft metallic snap. I pull out a stack of yellowed bank books. These are the secret accounts Silas mentioned in the hospital. I scan the columns of numbers with a racing heart. My father has been skimming the estate for 6 years. The total amount was staggering. He had been stealing for 6 years, long before the car. The door creaks open and Leo stands in the shadow. He is holding a heavy glass ashtray. You always were the boring one, Dominic, he sneers. He looks dangerous and desperate under the dim light. I tuck the ledger into my jacket and stand up. He takes a step forward and blocks my only exit. The smell of beer is thick on his breath. He wants the books back. I refuse to move. The tension is high. Move aside, Leo, I say with a steady voice. He laughs and raises the heavy glass in his hand. He thinks physical force will solve his mounting problems. I show him the phone recording the entire encounter. His face turns a sickly shade of gray in the dark. He realizes that violence will only add to his prison time. He is a coward at the core of his soul. He slowly lowers the tray. He is finished. I walk past him into the bright hallway light. My mother is standing there with a terrified look. She knows the study has been breached by my hand. She tries to grab my arm, but I pull away. We can fix this, honey, she says with a sob. I do not stop for hollow words today. I head straight for the front door in the driveway. Silas is waiting for the news. The truth is out. I reach my car and see a black sedan parked. 2 men in dark suits are watching the house. They do not look like the attorney's legal team. One man writes something down on a small clipboard. I realize they are not here for the estate or Silas. They are here for Leo and his hidden gambling debts. The brother I tried to save has brought monsters home. The game has changed for us all. I sit at the kitchen table as the evening shadows stretch. The house is silent, but the air feels heavy. My mother paces by the stove while my father sips scotch. The ledger sits between us like a loaded gun. I show them the evidence of their long deceit. They do not look like parents tonight. They look like suspects under a bright light. The ice in the glass clinks in the quiet. Their world is ending now. We only took what was deserved. My father says. He slams the glass down on the wood surface. He claims they protected the family name for years. I point to the forgeries in the blue ink. My mother starts to sob into her thin hands. It is a performance I have seen before. She wants me to feel a guilt I refuse. I am done being their quiet tool. The truth is finally out in the open. Leo stumbles into the room with a bruised lip. He looks at the men in the sedan outside. They want their money, Dad, he whispers in fear. My father turns a ghostly shade of gray. The gambling debts are larger than the stolen car funds. They used my tuition to pay off a monster. It was never about a gift for my brother. It was about saving him from a dark grave. The room feels small. I realize they had a second mortgage on the property. The house is drowning in a sea of red. My mother tries to touch my shoulder and plea. I pull away from her cold and desperate grip. You are going to let me go broke, I say. They have no answer for the plain reality. They traded my life for a hollow and fleeting peace. Silas was right to cut them off today. Their betrayal is absolute. "Give us the ledger, Dominic," my father commands. He stands up and tries to look very tall. I do not move from the old wooden chair. I have already sent digital copies to the attorney. His power over me died in the hospice room. He realizes he has no leverage left to use. He looks old and defeated in the dim light. The clock on the wall ticks like a countdown. The end is very near. The doorbell rings and the sound makes Leo jump. We all look at the front oak door. The men from the sedan are not leaving yet. They want a payment that the parents cannot make. My father looks at the jewelry on mother's wrist. It is a disgusting and frantic move to watch. They are willing to sell anything to survive. I see the true depth of their shallow souls. The pressure is crushing. I stand up and grab the ledger from the table. I head for the back door into the night. I am going back to Grandpa, I state. They do not try to stop me this time. They are too busy arguing over the gold rings. I hear the front door shake on its hinges. The collectors are tired of waiting for their money. Someone is breaking into the house right now. I do not look back. I reach the hospice as the rain begins to fall. The hospital corridor is silent and smells of metal. I find Attorney Miller standing outside the room of Silas. He looks very tired, but his eyes remain sharp. We must finalize the new trust before the dawn. My parents are already calling the front desk in panic. They want to stop the changes to the will. Time is running out for all of us today. Silas is waiting. The attorney pulls out a thick stack of blue paper. These documents will strip my father of his remaining power. We enter the room and find Silas breathing very hard. He looks at the ledger I am holding so tight. Did they admit it? He rasps through the oxygen mask. I nod and place the book on his thin lap. He touches the cover like it is an old friend. The light in the room flickers. We have a new problem. Miller says to the room, "The men in the black sedan have a lion. My brother signed a document using the estate as collateral. It is a fraudulent claim, but it stops the transfer." I feel a wave of cold fear hit my chest. Leo has gambled away the very ground we stand on. The attorney looks at the clock on the white wall. We have exactly 4 hours to act. Silas reaches for his phone with a shaking hand again. He dials a number I do not recognize at all. "Is the vault ready?" he asks the unknown person. I watch his face turn into a mask of stone. There is a hidden asset the parents never discovered yet. It is a collection of rare coins from the war. This gold can settle the debt and free the trust. Silas had one more secret left. I must get to the downtown vault before midnight. The storm is getting worse and the roads are slick. I take the heavy brass key from Silas's palm. My parents are likely waiting at the house to block. I have to be fast and very smart tonight. The future of the legacy depends on this single trip. Silas watches me leave with a look of deep hope. I cannot fail him now. I run to the parking lot and start the engine. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. "We are at the vault, Dominic." The message reads, "They guessed the location of the secret gold stash." My heart hammers against my ribs like a trapped bird. They are desperate enough to commit a robbery in public. I shift into gear and floor the gas pedal hard. The race is on through the dark. The city lights blur as I speed through the rain. I see the black sedan following me in the mirror. It is not my parents behind the wheel this time. The collectors have found me and they want the key. They think I am leading them to the big payday. I realize I am not just a messenger anymore. I am a target for every shark in the city. The game is lethal. The tires scream against the wet asphalt as I swerve into the bank parking lot. The black sedan is close enough to see the driver's teeth. I grip the brass key until it bites into my palm. Rain drapes the city in a cold and heavy gray curtain. I sprint for the side entrance of the vault building. Behind me, the car doors of the sedan fly open with a metallic thud. These men are not here for talk or negotiation. The lobby is ghost quiet and smells of floor wax. I reach the security desk and slam the brass key onto the marble. The guard looks at my wet clothes with a suspicious frown. I show him the legal power of attorney stamped by Miller. He checks the signature against a glowing computer screen. The seconds feel like hours while the storm batters the glass doors. He finally nods and buzzes me through the heavy gate. My heart is a drum. I descend the stairs into the bowels of the building. The air grows thick and cool near the steel vault door. My phone vibrates with a frantic call from my father. I ignore it and focus on the brass tumblers. The safety deposit box is small, but carries the weight of a kingdom. I slide the key into the slot and feel a mechanical click. The door swings open to reveal a velvet bag. Inside, the gold coins glow under the dim lights. The weight of the bag is surprising and solid. I tuck the gold into my inner jacket pocket. As I turn to leave, a shadow falls across the vault entrance. My father stands there with rain dripping from his chin. He looks desperate and older than he did this morning. He does not have a weapon, but his eyes are hungry. "Give it to me, Dominic," he says. He thinks he still has a right to this treasure. "This is not yours to take," I say firmly. He takes a step forward into the narrow and cold space. He tells me the collectors will kill Leo if he fails. I look at the gold and then at his shaking hands. He traded his integrity for a son who will never change. I realize I cannot save them both from this fire. He reaches for my jacket with a sudden and clumsy lunging motion. I shove him back against the steel. He hits the floor and looks up with a broken expression. The noise of footsteps echoes from the stairwell above us. The men from the sedan have bypassed the guard at the desk. I hear the heavy thud of boots on the concrete steps. My father freezes and his face turns a ghostly shade of white. He realized his greed brought the wolves into the sanctuary. We are trapped in a box with no exit. The air feels very thin now. The first man rounds the corner with a cold smile. He holds a silenced pistol at his side like a toy. "The key or the bag," he says with a flat voice. I look at my father, who is still on the ground. He is weeping silently while the world collapses around him. I pull the gold bag out and hold it high. The gunman shifts his focus to the velvet weight. He does not see the security alarm button behind my heel. I slam my foot down on the silent trigger. A red light begins to pulse in the hallway outside. The gunman snarls and moves toward me with a raised hand. I throw the heavy bag of coins at his head. It hits him with a solid crack and he staggers back. My father scrambles away toward the safety of the inner lockers. I run for the emergency exit behind the main vault. The alarm bell finally begins to scream in the dark. The exit leads to a narrow alley behind the bank. I burst into the rain and run toward the main road. Blue and red lights flash in the distance as police arrive. I still had 3 coins clutched in my left hand. I had used the heavy bag as a projectile to save my life, but I had managed to pull these 3 away first as proof of the inheritance. I look back and see the gunmen being tackled by officers. My father is being led out in handcuffs for his role. The betrayal has a high price today. I walk toward the police cruiser to give my statement. The adrenaline is fading and my body feels like lead. I see a second black car parked across the street. My mother and Leo are watching from the shadows of the alley. They do not look like family anymore. They look like ghosts waiting for a chance to strike again. I realize the coins I kept are the only things left. Leo starts to move toward me with a jagged glass bottle. Leo lunges through the rain with the jagged bottle raised. His eyes are wide and glassy with a desperate fear. I sidestep his clumsy swing and feel the wind of it. The police are occupied with the gunmen near the vault entrance. My brother is a drowning man trying to pull me under. I grip the 3 gold coins tightly in my fist. They are the only leverage left to save the estate. Leo falls into the wet mud and snarls at me. My mother watches from the sedan with a frozen expression. She does not move to help her golden son anymore. The sirens wail and drown out the sound of the rain. I realize she has already shifted her plan for survival. She is counting the seconds until she can claim ignorance of this. I step back and keep the space between us very wide. Leo scrambles up and wipes blood from his bruised lip. He looks like a monster. "Give me the coins, Dominic," he whispers through his teeth. He claimed he could settle the debt with just those 3 gold coins. I knew the math of his lies better than anyone. 3 coins will not stop the men who want his life. They will only buy him 1 more hour of running. I shake my head and look toward the flashing blue lights. Justice is coming for the entire family tonight. Leo sees the officers turning their heads toward our struggle. He is trapped. A tall officer approaches with a hand on his holster. He demands to see what is in my closed hand. I open my palm to show the ancient gold glinting. The officer looks from the coins to Leo's jagged glass bottle. "He tried to rob me," I state with a flat voice. My mother finally screams and runs from the car toward us. She tries to shield Leo with her own trembling body. It is a pathetic sight. The officer pulls my mother away with a stern warning. He cuffs Leo and pushes him toward a waiting cruiser. My brother's arrogance vanished as the reality of the robbery charge hit him. I watched them load him into the back seat, knowing his game was finally over. My mother turns to me with a face full of venom. "You destroyed your own brother," she hisses into the wind. I do not feel the sting of her words. I only feel the cold rain. I turn away and walk back toward the bank building. Attorney Miller is waiting by the yellow police tape now. He looks at the 3 coins and then at me. The bag was recovered. He says with a small nod, "The gunman did not get far with the heavy velvet. Most of the gold is safe and back in custody. We have the funds to clear the debt and the lion. Silas will live to see the end of this." We drive back to the hospice through the thinning storm. The city looks washed clean by the heavy midnight downpour. Miller explains that the parents face multiple counts of fraud. Their forged signatures on the line are the final nails. They will lose everything they tried to steal from the trust. I stare out the window at the passing neon lights. The weight of the evening begins to settle on my tired shoulders. I am free. We enter the hospice and find the room very quiet. The scent of lilies is stronger than it was before. Silas is awake and watching the door with intense focus. I place the 3 gold coins on his bedside table. He touches the cold metal and lets out a sigh. The tension in his face softens for the first time. "It is done then," he rasps with a faint smile. I nod and take a seat. Silas tells me that the cottage is now fully mine. The deed was filed while I was at the vault. I realized he had planned this outcome for many years. He knew his own son was a hollow and greedy man. He used the car theft as a final test. I passed by choosing the truth over the easy silence. The old man looks at peace with his choices. He reaches for my hand with a weak grip. The monitor above the bed began to beep a warning. Silas closes his eyes and his breathing becomes very shallow. I call for the nurse, but I know the truth. He stayed alive just long enough to see the win. The power of the legacy is finally in my hands. I feel a sharp pang of grief hit my throat. Then the screen shows a message from the bank. An alert showed that someone was attempting to drain the cottage account from a remote device. The heart monitor flatlined with a long and hollow tone. Silas was gone, but the ghost of his final victory remained in my hand. I stared at the bank alert on my phone screen. Someone had just used a remote login to access the cottage account. My parents had fled the bank before the police could process them. Now, they were already at the cottage estate, clawing at the digital walls of a legacy they never built. The nurse entered and lowered her head in quiet respect. I walked past her and headed for the hospital exit. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the pavement black and slick. I needed to lock the cottage account before they drained the maintenance funds. My car engine turned over with a sharp roar. I drove toward the small town where the property sat in hidden silence. The headlights cut through the thick mist. I felt the weight of the 3 gold coins I had salvaged from the vault. Someone was already at the gates. The silver BMW sat crookedly in the gravel driveway of the cottage. I slammed on my brakes and stepped out into the cold. My father was trying to force the heavy front door with a crowbar. He looked frantic and broken under the porch light. My mother stood behind him, clutching her phone like a weapon. They had fled the scene before the warrants were fully processed. Desperate for one last payday, they saw me and froze. The metal bar slipped from my father's shaking hands. "You cannot have this house," I said with absolute calm. My mother laughed, a jagged sound that lacked any real warmth. She screamed that their prior access gave them a legal right to the property. I showed her the final deed Silas had signed before his heart stopped. It was stamped with the exact time of the transfer. Their digital intrusion was just another felony for the pile. They were standing on land that belonged to me. The power shift was finally complete. My father slumped against the doorframe and started to weep. The arrogance had drained out of him, leaving only a hollow shell. I realized then that my worth was never tied to their twisted approval. I had protected the legacy while they tried to burn it for fuel. I pulled out my phone and dialed the local sheriff. I did not feel the old guilt or the familiar fear. I felt nothing but a clean and cold resolve. They were finished. The blue lights appeared at the end of the long driveway. My parents were led away in silence this time. I walked into the cottage and smelled the scent of old cedar. I sat at the small wooden desk and looked at the lake. The 3 gold coins lay on the desk like silent witnesses. I finally understood the truth of my grandfather's last lesson. Loyalty is earned through fire, not through blood. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number.